Welcome to Learning Bytes. In this video, we will work in the schedule change configuration to allow agents or supervisors to request schedule changes through their WebStation. In the first case, we will come to the WebStation functionality in our menu and we will double click in schedule change configuration to allow the selector to show couple options in the process. The first one, the management units, which will allow the schedule change request from the agent's perspective, and the roles, which will allow you to select the schedule change configuration at the supervisor level. We will include first in the management unit, we will enable the functionality to be accessible to the agents. This will guarantee that the agents have the possibility of selecting the schedule changes that we allow them to. And the first thing we're going to decide is what activity codes we want to allow through the web station to request a schedule change. We have usually a couple examples that are potentially common in different environments. The first one is the vacations, which will enable or work in conjunction with the time of manager. Overtime, so we allow the agents to propose overtime whenever it's possible, and maybe other activity codes like the possibility of moving breaks or moving lunches if possible. So we are going to include the break by double clicking in the activity code and also with the lunch time. We will work in different columns and the decisions to decide if it will be allowed to the agents or not. In the first column, we decide if these activity codes will be allowed to be added by the request of the agent in the schedules if they were not existing. Usually, maybe the break and lunch are already part of the schedules, so potentially is not added in this column, but the overtime, yes, and the vacations also, yes, they will be added to the schedules on demand. Deleting from the schedules, uh, it's another possibility that we will decide if it's going to be possible when requested by the agents. So we may decide which option is more important or it's more useful for our situation. In the case of vacations, well, we are going to allow the entire functionality. In the case of overtime, maybe we don't want to allow them to shorten or delete the overtime. Maybe adding only positive values to our requirements is always a good idea. In the case of vacations, as long as they have enough time earned, it will be part of the decisions automated by the system. In the case of the breaks and lunches, do we want to allow them to delete that activity from their schedules? Potentially, no, that may create unnecessary overtime if they are just removing that, or the possibility of going against adherence. So we will be able to decide which one is possible, especially if it's far in advance or if it's on the spot, if it's for the same day or future times, which will be maybe beneficial for adherence processes. So the possibility of extending the time is another decision that we are able to make. In the case of the break, maybe it's not a good idea to extend the break. In the case of the lunch, sometimes we have short lunches, 30 minutes lunch, and we will be able to go to 1 hour lunch if that was a long shift for the agent. So it depends on HR regulations. The possibility of shorten maybe is not good for the break, but the possibility of moving it is a good idea to improve adherence. With the launch, something similar could be related to HR decisions. If HR decides that it's possible, we may shorten it, but of course, moving it is a good option in this case. The processing option in this situation, we have three basic options. Require approval, which will be in your hands or the hands of the WFM team to make the decision. In the case of auto-approve, it will come directly to the approval of the change directly. It will be automatically auto-approved, so we don't have to worry about those schedule changes. In the case of the agents, maybe not a good idea to have it auto-approved, just require approval or use policies will be also a good option. For the launch time, we're going to say the same. And for the vacations, well, we may auto-approve it or use a policy depending on which configuration is more um, useful or more relevant for our process. The next options is related to how that is going to react in the schedule of the agents. If it's going to extend the schedule or not. For this particular column, overtime is the only one that will actually extend the schedule. The other ones shall not extend the schedules. In the case of overwriting the base code, then the situation is the opposite. The overtime is the only one that should not override base code, but the other activity codes, yes, they will maybe override. Create those changes in days in the past, in days in the future, for the current day in the past or current day in the future. We will make a similar decision. Usually for past events, they are already impacting adherence. Maybe it's something that we potentially want to project for future times more than in the past, but we will have the possibility of making that decision based on our operations requirements. So as best practices, always allowing these options in the future for future times in the current day is a good idea, and also for future situations in the current week or the current couple weeks are possible. So we may use the 7 days in the future to pre-organize these activity codes beforehand whenever possible. So this is the basic configuration to allow schedule change request through the WebStation and from the agent's perspective. We're going to save our changes. And if we were going to allow the request from the supervisor's perspective, we will make a similar decision. So we will visit our roles perspective. We're going to open the supervisor's perspective, and here we're going to move to the right, just like we did in the management units, the possible activity codes that we want the supervisors to have. Basically, the only difference is that one is from the agent view, this one is from the supervisor's perspective, but the decision-making process contains the same columns. So one thing that will be possible, it's maybe being more flexible with the supervisors, since they will be working on behalf of requirements or maybe helping us cover the requirements, and the agents maybe they don't have the perspective of their requirements. So that will be the only consideration, the different purpose. So we will be able to decide which activity codes will be available for the supervisors, and we enable the functionality by clicking on this little checkbox mark from the roles perspective, and in the management unit a similar situation from the checkbox mark at the top. This was the basic configuration for the schedule change request in the WebStation. The next step will be in another video how to make those schedule change requests from the agent perspective or the agent. Stand by for more learning bites. We'll meet in a next opportunity.